Okay, here you go. So what one of my virtual assistants does, let me blow this sheet up for you, is, and the reason that we started this was one for general liability purposes and satisfying a clause in our general liability insurance policy. Number two, we found that, a tile guy, it's like you're going to install freaking tile. All right, it's like one line item. It's very simple. They typically have invoices. They have, like a template invoice estimate they could send. We found our painters, like our handymen, they just didn't. So what we would do is we would grab all the work that they were doing, and there's like 500 and something items here. We'd extract those things that were for our painters, for example, and it'd come out to about 40 or 50 line items. We would copy and paste the item and the labor cost here, right? So we would extract the item and the labor cost, not the materials, because our painters don't pay for materials, we do. We would paste them all in here, and then so we would have this verbiage, okay, subcontractor, kind of CYA type of verbiage that my VA would send to them via DocuSign. All signed, painter's budget sheet. Well, this is pertinent because it's oleander, right? So we would get a signed copy of that project so that our painter, for example, you can see painter's budget sheet, the project, the painter's name, the budget amount, and quantity, labor, total, shows the total amount that we're paying him. And all of this is signed by him. So he's signing off on basically that he's not going to hold us responsible. He's an independent contractor. He's a big boy. And that being said, so this is very, very clear documentation. And then so the thing that we do then is whenever they submit, and I'm getting into now the actual paying part, which was the question. So whenever our contractors send invoices, so the first thing I want to say about invoices is make sure you can read them. All right. So you want to avoid handwritten invoices. For those of you who are scaling your investments and you're working with guys, the invoicing part of being a real estate investor can be quite cumbersome and very time consuming if you allow it and if you don't build some really good systems. I see so many real estate investors that are literally writing handwritten checks, first sin, and then number two, which is a cardinal sin, they're driving around meeting contractors, giving them checks. Okay, last time I checked my watch, I'm checking it right now, it says it's 2020. It's 2020. All right. We do not need to go drive around and meet people for checks. Oh my God. It is one of the biggest time sucks and unnecessary uses of your time and, quite frankly, the contractor's time. So we have a conversation with contractors right up front. We let them know, hey, we're not meeting for checks. Everything's going to be done electronically. We typically will release checks within 10 business days after you submit your invoice. Now, what are we doing? Under promising, over delivering. So we typically get their payments out to them the same week. Whenever contractors submit their invoices to us and we tell them to get them to us by Sunday by midnight, then they have a better shot of getting paid that week because my VA logs in on Monday and she inputs all of their invoices into our bill.com account, or in certain instances, deluxe e-checks. And that's how we pay our contractors. So the reason, we tell them, 10 business days in case we're busy one week, and we buy ourselves some time. Why do we do that? One, we want to set expectations, right? We do not want to work with guys, I've literally worked with guys and, they painted a wall and the paint's still drying and they're wanting to get paid 5 minutes later. Well, nobody got time for that. Like, we do not have time for those interruptions. So we set those expectations, because if they're wanting to get paid the same day, it's not going to be a good fit. That there are some exceptions. If it's a brand new contractor that we're working with, we will cut their first check to them really, really quick, but let them know, hey, we'll get this first check to you, because we know, like, we're still establishing trust here. But we say, hey, in the future, this is how it's going to be. And if you have concerns about that, lost my train of thought there for a second, but you want to set those expectations. Also, if they are apprehensive to work with you, but it's someone you really want on your contractor team, give them a list of references, some of your other contractors that have been working with you, and you can say, hey, Jose, tell, whoever this guy's name is, John or Juan or whatever, that we're good guys to work with, that we always pay, we're fair, reasonable kind of guys. So they can check your references as well. This also allows you to help you manage your cash flow a little bit better. If you've got a 7 to 10 day period that you can pay your contractors, especially if you're working off of draws, this is a good way to help manage cash flow, because we all know this business is about managing cash flow. And then last but certainly not least, the reason that you want to build in these delays is so that you can check their work, right? You can check the quality. So if you're the one who's checking projects, you don't want to have to run, like, if you've got 1 to 5 to 10 flips going on, that's a lot of freaking work to check on, right? And so typically our company will usually only check on projects 1 time a week. Now, if we're in punch phase, getting something closed out at the end, or there's permits involved, obviously that could be a little higher volume, but typically it's just once a week. So that's how we give ourselves that time period also to go check on work. So when their invoice has been received, and all these invoices don't go to me, they go directly to one of our VAs. We have an email account set up for her, specifically billing at besthomepro.com, or they go directly into one of our bill payment systems. So I mentioned earlier how important it is to be able to read your contractors' invoices, and I'll show you what we had to do. Years ago, we did a few things system-wise. We just couldn't read, one of our electricians, it was chicken scratch. I mean, the guy's English and everything was great, but his handwriting was not. So we started building our own invoices to people for our contractors specifically. Well, this was the one that was made for our electrician. So we said, hey man, we want to make your life easier. You can do this from your phone, you can do it from a computer, but we sat down and we established pricing on what he's charging us for labor, not for materials, except for certain, like panel was labor and materials. So we basically created an invoice for him, basically a system to help our system. So when they would submit this invoice, he would get a copy, my billing person would get a copy, approve it, and then forward it into our bill paying system. So forms like this are super easy to make these days, or you can just use a spreadsheet, because if you can't read a guy's invoice and you're going to be going, doing a lot of business with this person, just take a few minutes and build a Google form for them, so you can eliminate that headache of having to just decipher invoices every single week.